Please welcome Mr. Rob Byrne.
Thank you, Tom. Hey, isn't Tom doing a great job? What a fantastic MC. So look, I think I've met a lot of the people in this audience already because I do a lot of presentations around the district. How many people have actually seen? Yeah, quite a few have seen my presentation. Now, those who haven't, you should talk to those who just put their hands up and see whether it's worth having me come and talk to your club, because I've got an interesting message. But the good news is that the message today is entirely different. What I want to talk about today has more to do with what's happening in our district. So let's go back a little bit. If we look at, is this working? Yes. If we look at what happened in 1985 when Polio Plus started, we made a promise. Rotary, all of us made a promise that we were going to end polio, that we were going to end this really shocking, awful disease, polio. And I want to give you an indication of how far we've come in that fight against polio. Now, if we look at the graphic, this donut chart here represents what the situation looked like back in 1985 when we made that promise. 350,000 kids each year getting polio. And that little sliver that you can see up on the top right, that represents the number of kids who got polio in 2012, just 223 cases. Fantastic progress. People talk about us making progress of 99%. It's actually 99.94%. So we have Rotarians come so far. It's only the 0.06 that we're talking about that we need to finish. So let's revisit what the situation looked like back then in the 80s. 350,000, it's hard to sort of figure out what that means, but it means 40 kids per hour were getting paralysed by polio. It's just too awful to contemplate. You know, these kids were destined to have a life which was severely affected by that disease. But if you look at the mortality rates, which is around about 2 to 5% in kids, higher in adults, then we lost about 10,000 kids per year because of this disease back then. And most of the world was still endemic. We'd had the vaccine for 30 years, but still 125 countries were endemic. So it was not a pretty situation, it was dire. Now, as I said, what I want to talk about is what we did as a district back then. What were the origins of our activities? And I think Rotarians of this district, we have a lot to be proud of. And I want to talk about a few connections that were made. We talk about networking, I'm going to talk about connections. First one I want to talk about is Rob Sheldon from the North Sydney Club. Now, any members here from North Sydney? Yeah, good, welcome. Well, your president back in 1978 was Rob Sheldon, and he had a mate. He had a mate by the name of Ron Huckstep, and Ron Huckstep was a professor of orthopaedics at the Prince of Wales University, and he was doing some fantastic work in the third world. He had clinics and he had workshops and so on in Uganda. And this device that you see on the screen, that was a device, a wheelchair, which consists of just an ordinary stackable chair, a frame that was put on the side of it, and some bicycle wheels. And with that device, Professor Huckstep restored dignity to people who would otherwise have not had their mobility and worse. So this was a great connection for Rotary to have. Another connection was that Rob Sheldon had a DG by the name of Bob Burnett. Now look at that. He's a pretty dashing fella. That's Bob back in 1978. This is a photo that I got of Bob back in 78. Bob also had a mate by the name of Clement Renouf. And that year, the same year that Bob was district governor for our district, which was then called 968, Sir Clem Renouf was the president of Rotary International, and He, by the way, was also the man who introduced the 3H program, Health, Hunger and Humanity. So, you know, that connection was made between Bob and Clem, and seeds were planted in the mind of Sir Clem about Rotary. In fact, here is the photo which was taken at Sydney Airport with Bob Burnett and the professor talking with Sir Clem about polio, planting the seeds about the possibility that we could eradicate this disease. And Professor Huckstep gave Sir Clem an account of what the situation looked like on the ground in Africa, and it wasn't pretty. That photo, by the way, was taken by Rob Sheldon. So to me, that was a moment of history. That was the moment when the seed was planted in the mind of Sir Clement Renouf that maybe we could do this. And just as an aside here, that same year, Sir Clem actually planted a tree that you might have seen in St Leonard's Park down in North Sydney, dedicated to the 50th anniversary of the North Sydney Club. Now, the same year, 1978, there was another connection that was made. The Reverend Tom Cardwell from the Rotary Club of Manly. Any Manly members here today? Yep, good. The Reverend Tom Cardwell had a mate too by the name of Robert Hinkson. And Robert Hinkson was the inventor of and he was from New York. Any Americans? Yay! So we've got some Americans in the audience. So Robert Hinkson, Dr. Hinkson, was the inventor of what's called the peace gun. And this is an amazing device. It enabled people to deliver vaccine at the rate of 2,000 injections an hour. And another member of the Manly Club, I don't know how you pronounce this, John McCoot, he took a team of people over to the West Indies, and using this device, he vaccinated 60,000 kids, Rotarians. This is just fantastic. The contributions that have been made by Rotarians in our district over the years, back to 1978, absolutely fantastic. Now, the following year, Bob Burnett moved on. He became a member of the Rotary International 3H committee that I mentioned a moment ago. And what did Bob do? Bob is a hero, by the way. Look, what he did was, in conjunction with Professor Huckstep, establish a project in Malawi, which was the first major immunisation program in Africa. What a guy. I mean, this is fantastic work for polio. Now, a few years later, 1987, we heard that Royce Abbey passed away this year, very sadly, but back in 1987, he asked Les Whitcroft from the Ride Club here? Yeah, there we go. He asked Les Whitcroft to lead a program of raising money for the new Polio Plus program in the Australian and Pacific region. So what did Les do? Well, he first of all set up a committee to do that, but he put his hand in his pocket and made one of the biggest contributions to Polio Plus ever. I spoke to him last week and he asked me not to say what the figure was, but suffice to say that it was enough to fund a major campaign in the Philippines. The contribution of our Rotarians in this district is fantastic. John Carrick, I think John Carrick also passed away, sadly, but he was a member of the Linfield Club. Yay, okay. So John Carrick was the Rotarian that Les turned to raise money in New South Wales. And what did John do? He put together a committee and raised $2.8 million. I mean, you know, this is back in 1987. This is fantastic stuff on the part of Rotarians in our district. So we have so much to be proud of. And what drives this is tenacity. I don't know of any other organisation or any other group of people on the planet that could do what we have done in terms of keeping the focus on eradicating polio. And, you know, all these things that people in our district have done are truly inspiring because of that, the tenacity. We've been at this for so long. So let me put things in context of the sort of tenacity that I'm talking about. Now in 2000 we had a great year, Rotarians, we had a great year. We went from 10,000 cases of polio the previous year to 4,000 cases in the year 2000, 60% decline. And then the following year we had a situation, we dropped by 86%, 548 cases in that year. So it looked at that point like it was just do what you do and we're going to finish this job of eradicating polio. If we had have reduced the number of cases by 86% again, it would have been down to 75. But unfortunately what happened is that it jumped almost back up to 2,000 cases. And then for the following decade, we were basically in a state of stagnation. It was around about 1,500 cases, give or take, each year. And it looked like, we'd kind of lost the fight. Major publications like The Economist and the New York Times and others were saying things like late or never. Rather than ending polio, they were saying maybe we should end eradication. Maybe we should give up because we just were not making the progress and we could not continue to put this sort of money into a program that wasn't going to win. Well, they didn't count on the tenacity of Rotarians because we were the ones, I believe, who drove the process so that we did keep going. And what happened was that the number of cases, as I said, plummeted down to 223 in 2012. And it's us Rotarians that are really the driving force to make that happen, to continue the fight. And because of that, we can move on from that state of stagflation or whatever you want to call it. So there's been more recent activities too in this fight against polio, and let me start with my own. I'm on the stage, so I might as well start with my own story. As Tom said, I rode a bicycle. I started in Grafton and I went all the way up to Cairns, which is a very long way, by the way. And then I rode down to Melbourne, so about 5,000 kilometres all up. I typically would ride 50 to 100 kilometres in a day, and I did 1.2 million revolutions of my pedals, one for every Rotarian on the planet. I had hundreds of meetings, thousands of people that I met, which was a pure joy, and extensive media coverage, including a dozen TV interviews, which was fun. I had 2 broken wheels, 1 broken tailbone, which was a bit nasty, but I got to say it was just one big adventure. It was just fantastic, and as Tom said, I raised a lot of money in polio now. This is a photo of when I was arriving into Cairns, and I was fortunate enough to have Tony Abbott ride into town with me, and it was a fantastic opportunity for me to tell him the polio story, so that was terrific. And what do you reckon? Do I qualify for the Tenacity Award there? Yeah. Thank you. Now, somebody else who really qualifies for the Tenacity Award is past President Bruce Nichols from the Norwest Sunrise Club. Any? Yay! Up high. There you go. And he did a ride, the El Tour to Tucson. But rather than me tell you about that, can I get him to come on stage and tell you? Bruce? What do you reckon? Look at this. Over to you.
Thanks, Rob. Get it out of your systems, laugh now. But I'm proud to be a Rotary mammal, a middle-aged man in Lycra. And I know that there's lots of us out there, and right across the world, actually. Yes, I had the pleasure of going to Tucson in Arizona, and this is my second trip to Tucson. It's organised by a larger group that has 42 charities, but Rotary plays a part, and it's a Ride to End Polio is our part of it. This year there was only 70 riders that actually rode in the ride. It's quite a short ride, it's only 180 kilometres, but we do it in a day. Throughout the desert of Arizona, through 3 mountain ranges, which surround the whole city of Tucson. It was quite amazing. This year we did it in the rain, the first time in 31 years. It has actually rained, and it rained for 2 days. I have 12 days of rain, I think, in Arizona and Tucson each year, and we had 2 of them in the one in just before the ride. And it had 2 inches of rain, and we rode through rain for approximately 7 hours out of the 8 hours that I rode. And the temperature was between 3 and 6 degrees centigrade, so it was really cold. There's a lot of people getting hypothermia, and unfortunately one gentleman got hit behind from a car and died. But that was just one of the sidelines of riding in America. There was quite a number of riders who didn't actually make it to the starting line because of the rain and the cold, so tenacity also comes into that. As I said, it was 180 Ks, and it says we're at $2.1 million. And I'll just give you a little bit of background in that. This year the ride was organised, was dedicated. Each year they dedicate the ride to a particular person, and this year, in 2013, it was dedicated to John Huco, the General Secretary of Rotary. And the reason was because the year before, John raised $245,000 on his own, and the amount of money that the Rotary part of the ride, of all the 42 charities ride, John raised the most money ever in the ride's history. So they dedicated the ride to him, and there's a part of the medal that we all received has John's face on the back of it, and it actually says that dedicated to John Huco and to Rotary International. So Rotary International has really risen right above. This year we raised as a group of 70 riders over $710,000 US, and when it was matched with the money that the Gates Foundation, the 2-for-1, we raised $2.1 million, which is a
What do you reckon,
huge amount.
Rotarians? Over $2 million. And Bruce was there.
Yeah. So it was an amazing ride, and I'm available for guest speaking roles at any of your clubs, and the details are all on our district website, and I'll be very happy to speak to you.
Yeah, get Bruce to come and talk to your meetings. Great inspiration.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Well done. Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about, Rotarians. This is our district in action for polio. And there's another example I wanted to give you. Trish Wetton. Is Trish here? There she is. Trish, yeah, welcome. So Trish was the lady that was leading a team of people putting together a program for a movie night. And as you can see there, it was Amelia. And I think this is an interesting case. It was back in 2009. She invited people from all around the district and the surrounding areas. It was a big success. In fact, it was a sellout, made a lot of money. And, you know, they did things like put on videos about polio and Rotary, and the proceeds obviously went to End Polio Now. Now, she kind of orchestrated 9 clubs. Now, you know, we're talking about 9 Rotary clubs and getting them to cooperate and work together, and I reckon that maybe she deserves the EPN Award for tenacity. What? So, good job, Trish. Now, some breaking news. Right now, Sue Bell and Irene Morrison from the Lower Blue Mountains Club. Yay, well done. So, a bit about Irene, you probably know, she's well known for the work that she does for Village Aid in the Philippines, and Sue is well known for the work she does for Girl Guides in India, and a lot of other stuff they do as well. But put these 2 ladies together, and what a team. They decided that what they wanted to do was to go to a National Immunisation Day in India, and guess what? They're there right now. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning there, I'm guessing. But they'd probably be up and about, heading off to vaccinate kids. This is the commitment that I'm talking about for Rotarians in our district. Absolutely. So I don't have a lot of time, but let me just play a very quick video from Bruce Aylward, who is the Deputy Director General for the World Health Organization, the guy who leads the fight against polio for WHO, and he's speaking here to an audience of Rotarians. Oh, and I apologise for the lip sync. Here we go. No, it's not working. Okay, let me just say that what he said to that group of Rotarians was that without Rotary's leadership, we would not finish this fight. We can only finish this fight with Rotary's leadership. And that's kind of the theme of what I'm saying here, that it's Rotarians and Rotarians from our district that have made this happen. So whether you call it leadership, fortitude, as Bill Gates calls it, tenacity, as I call it, what I think we can show is that our district has been in this fight from the very beginning. We have made huge contributions, leading contributors, and we've shown our commitment over and over again. Now, you know, in a couple of years from now, a few years from now, we've got a couple of options. We can sit back and say, yeah, we as Rotary, we came this close. We really did. We tried hard, we came this close, but we just missed. Or we can say, we did it. Which is it going to be? We did it. Yeah, so that's where we are. Thank you, Rotarians.